You're crazy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a new and exciting episode of the Viall Files Ask Nick edition, joined by Allie and Amanda and our show dog, Kiki.
Yeah, do you want to introduce Kiki? Because I feel like some people who watch the videos don't know who she is.
It's your canine.
This is Kiki. What was the question that was phrased?
Who claims this dog?
I claim the dog. I claim her.
Yeah, she's the office dog.
Yeah.
Well behaved.
I think she's doing well.
Yeah, she just...
If anything, I've been seeing a couple comments of people asking if she's okay because she really doesn't move that much.
She's a sleeper.
She's a sleeper.
She's mellow. She's well trained.
She's an old rescue dog. She was rescued when she was old. She's even older now.
She barks only at men.
Yep. But she likes you too, so that's good.
Yeah, not all men.
She doesn't bark at you. She was excited to see you this morning.
Dogs love me. Somewhat shocking.
Yeah.
Truly love my Jeff, but like I don't have the same affinity for all dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But they all love me.
Love it.
I
feel like sometimes that's what happens. It's the people who don't love
Withhold
dogs,
love? Yeah.
that they're then obsessed with.
Yeah.
It's so fucking embarrassing when you're at a party and someone has a house cat and you like try to win the cat over and then it like doesn't. Like I feel like that has happened to me a few times. A lot of times I feel like I do it successfully and it's like all about like the dance of like with dogs it's pretty simple. It's like you're like, "Hey, Bubby," and then they get all excited.
But there's a certain level of hubris one requires to try to win over a cat.
It's like testing the waters though. Just being like, "Hey."
I mean, in some ways I mean that as a compliment. You're definitely someone who
I don't give up on anyone. Not a cat.
yeah, but when you were a kid, I feel like you were definitely, is this correct when I would say, if someone says like this can't be done or you can't do it, you were like trying, like, I bet I can?
Probably.
Did you love a good challenge?
Yeah.
Slightly defiant?
I don't know. I'm deeply fearful of authority and I don't want to get in trouble and I don't want people to be mad at me.
What's that have to do with cats?
Well, you said, would you be like, or are you defiant?
No, I don't mean defiant. Like, I don't mean like, I don't
Not
mean
like a ditching school type of way.
Yeah, I don't mean like a rule breaker. I mean more like, proving people wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you can do it. You rise to the challenge. Yeah, that's a better way of saying it.
Yeah, I feel like I have the Boston vengeful energy, where it's like the comeback.
I've never known someone to be like, I just like winning over cats.
They're so sweet. It's such a great excuse to like if you're like, oh, I've been in this talking circle for too long and I'm not connecting with people and I want to be not a part of it politely. Then you can be like, oh, there's a cat.
Okay.
And it's also like,
you gotta pets or babies or small children. Like I realized that was the issue at my birthday party is all of a sudden I was like, I haven't spoken to a single adult in a very long time because there's a 3-year-old here who's really captivating me. Oops. It gives you a little outlet.
And you got to check on the animals at a party because it's overwhelming for them.
True. But I feel like cats are just really self-sufficient.
Is it true that you can just leave cats? Like if you have a cat, like and you go on like a weekend trip, can
Was
you
that
just
just
leave
an
it?
earthquake? I felt a rattle.
Did you feel a rattle or did you feel rattled?
I wonder. Did you rattle or were you rattled?
Could that be like a pre to a bigger one? Check Twitter. Is anyone on Twitter tweeting about earthquakes?
No. Someone said 2 minutes ago the weather has been giving earthquake vibes these last couple days, so maybe they predicted it.
The first earthquake.
Oh no, that's Alaska. Sorry. We don't live there.
The first earthquake I ever experienced in LA, it was while I was at a sound bath for the first time.
Wow.
So I'm like lying down,
Really?
they're playing the bowls, and then it started, and I was like, oh my God, this is a spiritual overload.
Mine was in the Bachelor Mansion, Andy season.
Wild.
And then the first weekend after I bought my house, there was an earthquake
Huh.
at like 10 o'clock at
Did
night.
anything bad happen?
No, just a little bit of a rattle. I'm almost certain that was an earthquake.
I think we wouldn't have felt it because we're in rolly chairs.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
We're just the ladies of dainty women.
I just like, I mean, not that I'm rooting for earthquakes, but it would have been kind of
I mean,
fascinating
the
to
sky
have one
did
on
look
it
kind
while
of
we're
eerie
recording.
when I was letting Kiki out.
What does
a
the
little
sky? Does the sky have anything to do with earthquakes?
Yeah.
I-
Is there earthquake weather?
I was trained to know what tornadoes are like,
Sure,
not
yeah.
earthquakes.
Anyway, if you're dating someone, listen to their friends, especially early on. I have some friends. I have a friend and an acquaintance who recently started hanging out, or not, somewhat recently. And there was a lot of a mutual excitement between these two people. One of the people, the acquaintance came up to me and was like, "Tell me about your friend." And I was like, "This friend, wonderful person."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Okay, I'll put in a good word for you, but I think you should go say hello on your own," And then they did, and then my friend was like really excited, and there were, very rarely do you get that like mutual excitement. So it was a really kind of like cool where it's like, oh, these two people have been vibing each other from afar, and so they went on a date and hanging out. And at first, the acquaintance was really charming, and I said to Natalie, "This is the definition. If they wanted to, they would. Really putting himself out there." And they had a nice couple dates. I loved the follow up. It was definitely "I like you" energy right off the bat, and honestly, didn't mind it. I didn't mind the enthusiasm, but it was teetering on too much. And I don't really have a problem with like putting it out there. I don't like the game playing and things like that. But when that person's friends says to you, just maybe slow down a little bit, you should listen to their friend. He like kidnapped her and took her to Disney.
Oh.
So he, in this scenario, he really likes her. He's super into her, or she.
Well, and he was also coming off of kind of an ugly breakup.
Oof.
And so I had my concerns about, is this a little overcompensating, things like that. But who knows? It wasn't necessary for me to say. I definitely got the vibe that he wasn't totally over it. But that's, sometimes you can get over someone while also pursuing someone else. You don't have to be totally like, net neutral and indifferent about a relationship to start dating someone. But when you start ignoring the advice of their friends, especially at the pace in which you're going, not like it doubles the weirdness.
So you're talking about not only your friends, but the friends of the person you've started seeing, or your friends.
Yeah. So he went to her friends and was like, "How's it going? Like, what could I do? Like, I really like her." And there's like, just slow down just a bit, just a little bit. And the response.
He asked for feedback and then
he asked for feedback, got feedback, and ignored the feedback, and kind of was like, "I know what I'm doing." And I was like, "I don't know if you do," And again, it all depends on the situation. Like, she moves a little bit of a slower pace, and she wasn't asking for like, don't talk to me for a week, but it was just a lot all at once, where, phone calls to mom and things like that. He put her in a group chat with his mom after like the third date.
Oh my God.
Sir.
What did he say in that group chat?
And then
what could you need that group chat for?
But then the mom like text her like almost like talking crap about her son, but like in a playful way, but like, let's be friends. Like she was,
we're bonding.
Yeah. Like, and it was just like, I don't know. It was a bummer for me because I really like this person. And honestly, I think maybe he's not being honest with himself about where his heart is regarding the past relationship. That's my sense of it all. But I was just really disappointed when I found out that he was getting advice. Because at first I was like, well, maybe he's just, projecting a little bit. Maybe he's just in his feels. And then I only found out that like, no, he literally asked some of her friends about like, how's it going? Can I get any notes? And they just said, yeah, it's fine. It's going great, but just slow it down a little bit. Like, take it easy, get to know her. Dating's hard enough. It's complicated. People are confusing. But when you get like the cliff notes, when you get like the answers to the test, just read the notes. It's like a teacher saying, remember in high school where every once in a while a teacher would be like, yeah, you can use your notes on the test.
Yeah, open note
tests. I'm like, great. And that would be like having an open note test and like deciding to like show off.
And being like, all these answers are wrong, even though I wrote them down in lecture.
Or just be like, you know what? I can remember them. I'm smarter than everyone. And everyone's just like has their books open and they just like stubbornly close it. Like, what is that?
It's also interesting to think about like to what extent is it like oftentimes healthy or productive to get feedback from friends? Because I feel like it's very stigmatized to not have direct communication, like person to person in the relationship. And yet I feel like especially at the beginning of relationships, like I have one friend who I'm like, this is like, it's one of her close friends from college. I think they are going to get married. Like, I truly think they're in love with each other. They haven't acknowledged it. And like, neither of them wants to like break the game of like friendship chicken. And there's been times where I've really considered like, should someone who knows both of them just kind of like do the thing of like testing the waters and playing Cupid or like,
every situation's different. In this particular instance, he had access to her friends. It was pretty easy. He didn't like, it wasn't like, you know, you don't meet someone on a dating app and be like, can I have a number of your friends? That's also kind of weird. But like, if you have access and they're willing to like give you some information, you should follow it. I don't, you know, and so whether it's friends or something else, but like never assume that you know what's best for the people you like more than they know, or that the people who know them best know, you know, just
especially after you asked for the answers.
You know, I
asked for the inside information and then you didn't use it.
Yeah, I don't, and
That's
maybe
not
this is a
even
one-off
getting-
situation, but I just have a feeling like a lot of people do this. I don't know, maybe not, but I was just
yeah, it's because it feels like there's a specific, I don't even know how to categorize it, but like kind of like, I guess like group of actions where it's like, it's not logical and it's almost unstoppable. Like when people like want to hook up with the person who they on a logical level, like, no, it's completely toxic. No, it's not going anywhere. No, they're not being respected. Their boundaries aren't being met, whatever. But it's just like, there's the pull, like the magnetic pull. And it feels like this is a similar one where it's like he maybe like on a rational or like intellectual level, like knew better, or like was like, okay, so the right thing to do is not do that. But then he just couldn't help himself but like dive in.
Well, they had a Disney date.
Did she know?
No, she did. I was kidding when I said kidnap, but
Because someone told me that. They were like, "Oh, I was gonna like do this whole surprise thing and take you to Disney, and then I realized you probably should know." And my response was, "Well, yes, please. Like in theory."
It's like, how am I supposed to get my ears ready?
she knew she was going to
Okay,
Disney.
great.
She said yes to Disney.
Great,
But
great,
once
great,
they got to Disney, there wasn't a lot of like checking in about like how long you want to be at Disney and, you know, if you have other plans later in the day. It was just like kind of, you know.
So is your friend kind of done with him now?
Yeah.
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 Because there's nothing like
Which was
wanting
really
something
disappointing
to
because it
slow
had
down.
so much potential. I think that was what's so sad about it, is that she like genuinely was super into him. And
Yeah, but if she's already wanting him to go slower and he does nothing but like continues to rev the engine, it's gonna be a done.
yeah, it was just all, you know, it's just like mom's involved, you know.
It's too much, too far.
I feel like the single best skill in life is like being able to read a room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like it
And
really,
this is a smart person. Like I don't know a ton about this person, but what I know I like. And I
Do you
thought
think he was just blinded by infatuation? Like he was so into her that kind of all that caution went out the window?
I feel like it's almost like, you know, like even with this show, like I give advice, we give advice, and, you know, how people apply that advice matters too, right? And it's like, it almost sounded like he was, you know, taking the advice of like, you know, don't, like, you know, oh, you don't want to look like a fuckboy, so be really like direct and communicate and make plans. And he was certainly making plans, and he was showing an interest, and he was, you know, doing like, you know, you could argue he was doing all the things that people talk about how to not look like a fuckboy type of thing. But it was just like having that balance and knowing when to pull back, and still like, you know, you can still communicate and be clear, and you can still take things slow, like not being a fuckboy or, you know, or wanting to pursue someone doesn't mean you have to like, you know, floor it, you know, and it doesn't mean you have to define a relationship in like a couple weeks. Like at one point he was just like, I think after a couple days was like trying to define the relationship, and it was just like, what do you know about this person?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was bummed because there was so much potential there, you know? And so it just goes to show that like, take your time, slow things down, you know, take the advice of their friends if they offer it. Make life easier on yourself, people. Anyway.
but if they don't do that and you end up in a breakup, check out our breakup playlist. It's on our Instagram. And this week's breakup song of the week is Hard Feeling / Loveless by Lorde. Shout out to Natalie for, not your Natalie, a different Natalie, for submitting this. She says, I am now in the happiest relationship of my life, but this song is what I had on repeat during my last breakup with my emotionally abusive ex. Quote she highlighted was, I light all the candles, cut flowers for all my rooms. I care for myself the way I used to care about you. These days, we kiss and we keep busy. The waves come after midnight. I call from underwater. Why even try to get it right? When you've outgrown a lover, the whole world knows but you. It's time to let go of this endless summer afternoon. It's so hard to read these lyrics, not in like the rhythm of voice. When you've outgrown a lover. But
Please rap it. Please do
Is
some
it a
like
rap?
spoken word.
not at all.
Yeah, it's Lorde, right?
I just can't really sing, so when I try to like indicate rhythm of
Can you
like,
dance?
yeah, in the sense that like I really like dancing and have a good time. I'm not like out there like
But you can like
putting my
keep a
pussy
beat.
into it, but
Yeah. I mean, you're on.
yeah, I think so. But I also think like I don't. I feel like I overcame this hump where like for a while in college, randomly I was just very self-conscious on dance floors, and then after COVID, I think after like the isolation, I was like, I don't give a fuck about how I look. Like I don't really.
There you go.
But I feel like it was really hard for me to get there. Do you guys care about how you look dancing?
Not really.
I mean, sure.
I
can
mean,
dance,
it probably depends
you know?
on the context. You know what I mean? Like, are you in a room with friends?
Like I know I'm not like Elaine Bennis. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Seinfeld, but she was notoriously a bad dancer on the show. But
It's like I don't think I dance in a way that's like, oh my god, someone's gonna come up to me and be like, "You're so hot" when you dance. But I
Yeah,
do
sure.
think I would be. I'm a very
Isn't that the
good
dream?
contribution to like a wedding.
when you're
bar
dancing, people
mitzvah.
aren't like, oh no. she's
No,
dancing."
no, and I
No.
force them to get involved. The best dance move, and I stand by this, is to hold a microphone and someone like for someone who's enjoying the song,
A fake microphone.
pretending to hold
Yeah.
a microphone up for them to sing.
there you go.
It's
Little life
such
hack.
a crowd pleaser. People feel that because people are like kind of waiting for permission. I think a lot of times to like get into it a little bit more than they are, and they unleash the floodgates. But going back to what Natalie had to say, she said, these lyrics really resonated with me because I felt like during the relationship, especially towards the end, I was so consumed with trying to make the relationship work that I neglected my own needs and I did not give myself enough self-love. She mentions kissing, keeping busy, etc., which I feel like is relatable in so many ways because when it ends, you just want to do anything you can to keep busy and distract yourself from the pain, including kissing new people, sometimes drinking, the reference about calling from underwater. I love her also mentioning how when it's over, the whole world knows but you. It does feel that way sometimes, how so many people see how bad you are for each other, but you sometimes can't when you're close to it. And I do agree that that is one of the most like the first time I heard that like this Lorde song, I listened to the full melodrama at Boston Logan Airport, and that was a lyric that really stood out. Do you agree with that? Like when you outgrow a lover, the whole world knows but you?
When you outgrow a lover. Yeah, potentially. Yeah. The world might know before you.
That's, I think, one of the parts of the breakup that I think
Sometimes, not always. I don't know. Because
Yeah.
I guess it's case
I'm
by
like,
case.
I can think of examples, not in my own life, but like from my friends. Like, I'm
You know,
like, did I
sometimes you're
know
like,
that
we broke
before
up,
she
and people
did?
could be like, what? Really? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they were. And you're like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends. If you are tired of people judging your mental intellect based off of your inability to spell things correctly or put commas where they're supposed to go or have run-on sentences or all of the above, you know who you are because you're one of me. Think of Grammarly. Grammarly is helping people, well, seem smarter.
Grammarly is helping with everything. You know, Vampire Weekend once famously asked the question, who gives an F about an Oxford comma? Grammarly does. It is not just your spelling. It is not just punctuation or typos. It is also everything from like making sure it's like punctuated in a way that sounds professional, telling you if your tone could be more
Yeah, the like tone
confident.
detector is the best part.
Let Grammarly help you out and let you know, maybe this isn't the time for a little sarcasm. You know what I'm saying?
On the other side of things, if you're a little bit meek, if you're a people pleaser, if you just want to make sure you're not bothering someone, Grammarly will like give me some suggestions that will really make me think about the way I treat others.
They'll
Like,
take out all the unnecessary apologies.
like I just think, and they'll be like, get rid of Just think.
Yeah.
Just say what you're trying to say, girl.
I think. With Grammarly Premium's tone suggestion, take your writing to the next level, keeping you professional as you balance being direct and friendly while finding solutions with your team. Plus, Grammarly has tons of other great features: advanced spelling, grammar, punctuation, and conciseness suggestions to ensure that your writing is professional, mistake-free, and clear. Go to Grammarly.com/tone to download and learn more about Grammarly's premium advanced tone suggestions. That's GRAMMARLY.com/tone.
5, 6, 7, 8. I got my Hungry Root box in the mail. It showed up on my step and it really wasn't stale.
My Hungry Root box has cookie dough.
You love that cookie dough.
And I love it ever so.
Yeah, you do.
That was
The
bad.
other day, I made a poke bowl. It had salmon and cucumbers and jasmine, you know?
When I am hungry, I get really rabid. That's why my favorite thing is their kits of salad. Yay!
Well done. Well, if you are someone who is just a busy bee and you have things to do, you don't fancy yourself to be much of a cooker, or you just don't have the time to go grocery shopping and worrying about, are you picking out the right foods that are as healthy as you want them to be? Well, let Hungry Root do all that work for you. Hungry Root not only comes up with delicious meals for you that are very easy to prepare, but they're pulling from the best ingredients on the planet.
Purposely in my box when I was doing my quiz of what I wanted, put in that I don't want to spend a lot of time making something, because if I have to spend a lot of time and I'm already tired, I'm just not going to do it. And so they sent me 4 different recipes.
Right now, Hungry Root is offering the Viall File listeners 30% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. How can you beat that? Just go to hungryroot.com/VIALL to get 30% off your first delivery and get your free veggies for life. hungryroot.com/VIALL. And don't forget to use our link so they know we sent you. Well, we have a great show lined up for you and a great week. Tomorrow, the premiere of Zach's season, right? Zach? Is his name Zach? I think.
Watch him stun us. Watch him be the most multidimensional.
He might.
I think he could be a great-
broad,
I think-
distinctive, unique, show-stopping, gorgeous, beautiful.
I think he has a chance to be a very likable bachelor, which we haven't had in some time. I think he has a shot. I think he's earnest and sincere. We'll see. We'll see. You know. Yeah, I think he has a shot. But anyway, Ariana Maddox from Vanderpump Rules will be with us to break down episode 1. Probably talk a little Vanderpump, get a little tea with their most recent season. That is tomorrow. Now that we are back on the Monday schedule, we'll be dropping those recaps after the episodes, or, you know, first thing. They'll certainly be up by Tuesday morning. And then on Going Deeper on Thursday, Going Deeper sticking on Thursday, my dear friend and professional stylist to the stars, Brad Goreski, also has a new show coming out on MTV, I believe. But he'll be with us. Brad's always a good time. If you're looking for a good laugh and a lighthearted conversation, I don't know what Brad and I are going to talk about, but I'm guessing it's going to be fun. I think he's a little mad at me that I didn't invite him to the engagement party. So he'll probably yell at me for that.
Would Brad style us for your wedding?
Brad, you can ask him. And
burning questions
That's
for Brad.
this Thursday. And next week on Going Deeper, a week after Thursday, the Lautners, Taylor Lautner and Taylor Lautner will be with us. You might know him from a popular series called Twilight.
I was going to be like Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Go to sleep.
That's next Thursday. And Jim Jeffries
Yeah.
will be helping us break down episode 2 of The Bachelor. So a couple fun weeks lined up for you. If you haven't had a chance to go and listen to mine and Natalie's engagement episode, that came out last Thursday. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. And finally, don't forget this Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, episode 2 of Better Date Than Never. Our new live show on AMP that's all about dating. We're helping people get ready for dates. We're helping people break down the dates that they had, deciding what their next steps are, maybe kind of going over various icks with the people that they're considering, dating app discussions, things like that. It's all focused on dating. Dating's hard enough. You might as well have a community of people to do it with. And like I said, it's live and interactive. You'll be able to participate in the conversations as well. So be sure to check that out. You have to have an iPhone and you have to live in America. That's I'm sorry. And as far as all the people asking whether we are going to put out those episodes somewhere else, eventually, yes. Right now, TBD. We're deciding what we want to do with those episodes. So be patient if you either can't join in or you don't live in America or you don't have an iPhone. But for everyone else, try to take the time. It's super fun. It's super engaging, and you will hopefully get to see, I don't know, different sides of us, but like a bit more intimate live setting. So be sure to check that out. That's Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Anything else, ladies, that I'm missing?
Just if you're listening to this on Monday and you appeared on the show and you have an update for us, email me now, right this instant, asknick@theviallfiles.com. If you haven't appeared on the show and you want to, also email asknick@theviallfiles.com, but it's not as urgent.
Yeah, updates. Get those updates in. Don't forget to send all your questions at asknick@theviallfiles.com for all things Ask Nick related, whether it's texting office hours, any mediations. We'd still love to do those. Just obviously we need two people willing to do it. Okay, let's get to our callers.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
How's it going?
Hi, I'm Whitney. I'm 29 years old, and I am fucking my friend's situationship.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
All right, so walk us through the first time you had some sex. Set the stage,
Yeah, so we ended up, he slid into my DMs I was on vacation, and he was like, oh, that looks fun, blah, blah, blah. Moved to texting, and then it was kind of like the elephant in the room on what was going on. So when I got back from my vacation, I was like, listen, you need to come over and we need to talk about this elephant in the room. Well, obviously, I hear her side of the story. He's a fuckboy, blah, blah, blah. He's like, no, that's not true.
No, he is.
Okay, that's true.
Okay,
so he tells his side of the so he tells his side of the story, and I'm like, wow, I actually kind of believe your side. You don't sound as crazy. So that first night we didn't hook up. Well, then a couple days later, he was like, look, I want to date you, blah, 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 take you out. So he's like, let me cook you dinner at my house. We'll watch Love Island, go figure, all this stuff. So we ended up hooking up that night, and it was really good. And this is probably TMI, but my friend...
There's no such thing on this show.
Right. Well, my friend was bitching that he never went down on her ever. And he went down on me the first time, multiple times. So I'm like, do I have a leg up? Is he really interested in me? He took me out on a date. We're supposed to hang out in 2 days. He's taking me on a date again. So I'm kind of like, is this a thing? Like, he's taking me out on dates. He's doing sexual things with me that he hasn't done with her. Like,
I mean, all that really means is that he might be, he could be more into you physically. Maybe the connection's better. Clearly, he does go down on people, so it's not like a preference thing for him. I wouldn't let your ego make it that much more meaningful than it is. Hearing that he didn't go down on her, and then he's going down on you, your ego probably in that moment while you're just having a little orgasm is like, fuck yeah, I'm the best.
yeah,
he wanted it. I don't.
Yeah. I don't know, because she was always complaining how he never returned the favor, this, that. Nick, I didn't even have to blow him, and he did it anyways. So I'm just like, okay.
Again, congratulations. He's into you, but there's two questions for you. What do you want to do about this friendship, and how do you go about that? You've already had sex with him. So there's no conversations about what do I do? Do I pursue this guy? You've already pursued him. You're already in deep. And whether you decide to date him or not, you've already been a little messy. And so now you have to figure out what you are prioritizing, and if this relationship is anything that you want to try to salvage or maintain or save.
Right. So the situation with her is that actually our friend group of about 3 to 5 people are actually kind of sick of her because of this said situationship and how she acts with it. So that's kind of taking care of itself.
How many people in the friend group know about this, though?
So interesting, on Friday, he was like, let's go out to dinner, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, well, these other 2 people from his friend group who are also kind of fucking in a situationship, he's like, well, we can go meet up with them later. And I was like, well, do these two people know about, like, they know me. So I think it's going to be kind of shocking if they see us together on Friday and we end up hanging out. But I mean, he's wanting to like bring me around the group as, I guess, the person that he's with. And he never really did that with the other girl. They kind of just knew that it was a situationship. So like, he's not necessarily hiding me. I mean, she's kind of done her own thing and people have kind of started to back off from her because of how like nuts she's gotten over this. But I don't really know how this is going to go over.
Not well.
No, not.
Yeah. It's going to get messy, you know,
No.
and she is going to be loud, and she is going to tell as many people as she can, and she's going to try to character assassinate you and him. And anyone who hears her side of the story is going to think the worst of you, because it sounds bad. Like, you know.
I know. I'm being
You
honest,
definitely did
though.
not. No, yeah, no. We're only human. No judgment. I appreciate your honesty, but let's just, you know, we're just looking at this at face value. And you recognize that you did not handle this in the most mature and thoughtful way, considering everyone's feelings, right?
No.
Okay. So it's good that you can acknowledge that. I don't think it does you or your character any good to, you know, find ways to discredit her or that relationship or that
Right.
situationship. The fact that he seemingly is more into you now than her, you know, that's good for you, the fact that you like him. But I would, you know, I really protect your character in this moment, you know, over your ego. And that doesn't mean you can't pursue him, but I think you maybe want to pull back a little bit in terms of conversations you have with him. Like, I would hate for you and him to justify your actions and then use her behavior or her personality or whatever went wrong in that relationship as a means to justify your choices. I think you can acknowledge that you didn't handle this situation in the best way, own up to it, you know. She's never going to forgive you, but you can, I guess, forgive yourself. You know, like, you know, sometimes we make mistakes and it doesn't really matter. You know, we can apologize to the appropriate people, whether they want to forgive us or not. That's entirely up to them. But I think there is something to be said about acknowledging it to yourself. Hey, I disappointed myself with the way I handled this. If I were in her shoes, I would have really hated being on the receiving end of this. And I would have wanted someone else to treat me better than I treated someone in this moment. And, you know, I just should remember that for the next time. And I should just hold myself accountable by simply just acknowledging that to myself. Right. And I think you can do that without beating yourself up. That's still a more productive exercise than feeling bad about it and then pretending it's not that big of a deal. And then, and we all do this. And then to make ourselves feel better, say things like, well, I mean, she was a bitch anyways, or, you know, or whatever it is, you know, trying to discredit her or that relationship because you don't want to just say to yourself, you know what, I did kind of a shitty thing to someone that I claim to be a friend. And I was a little selfish in this moment. And instead of taking a time out and telling him to deal with his shit before he decided to hook up with me, I decided to be in the moment and be a little selfish, et cetera, et cetera.
So another reason why I did pursue this, because I had all of those same thoughts going through this, is that our friend group and his friend group both know. He has explicitly told her, I have heard it, my friends have heard it. He has said, I do not want to be with you, my friend, saying, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to date you. I don't want it to be anything else. But yet, he's still
fucking her, and he was still doing shit, and I'm sure he was doing things to like lead her on, and he was doing all the fuck boy shit. He's a fuck boy. Like,
you're so right. I know.
You know, and I don't know if you've read my book yet. You should.
I do have it, and I have read it.
Okay. But yeah, he might be your person. You know, every fuckboy is someday going to stop being a fuckboy for someone they decide to want to make a priority. But he's very much a fuckboy, right? And maybe you're a little bit of a fuckboy too. so that's, again, just something to recognize, because now you have to decide, as far as this relationship and this guy is, all right, do I want to pursue him? Sounds like you do. But how do I want a relationship with him, or am I fine with just being a fuckboy with him and having a situationship that's a little bit more meaningful than what he had with her? Like, what do you want out of this situation?
Well, he hasn't. I don't know if this is just fuckboy.
I don't care about him. I want to know what you want.
I do want to have a relationship with him. I do.
Okay.
I vibe with him. I click with him. I do see like something, and he's told me that too. So like, I do want to date him and pursue him and potentially date him and stuff. And he's told me, you're the kind of girl, good job, good head on her shoulders, this, that. I do see myself, dating you and whatnot. And I had asked, do you see that with my friend? And he has explicitly told my friend, I do not see myself dating you, marrying you, anything like that. And I was like, oh, wow. But he's like, you are more my type anyways. This girl and I are very different. We're just different people. And, he's like, you're more my type, this and that. And so like, I mean, we've obviously fucked. We've been on 2 or 3 dates. We're going out in 2 more days. And he calls me every morning before work. I call him. He texts me. He's even offered for my cat to go to his place. He got a litter box for her, all this stuff. So like, it's just little things like that where I'm like, that doesn't seem very fuckboyish. Like it does, but it doesn't. Like
every fuckboy has acted like a boyfriend to the person they're being a fuckboy to. So just know that. Okay. I'm not telling you not to be excited. I'm just saying, you can be excited and slow things down at the same time. You can be excited and still level-headed at the same time. And I do think it would be worthwhile, maybe on your next date, to just say and have a mature conversation with him, because it's very easy to get caught up in the moment. It's very easy to justify, all your actions because it all feels good. Like, how could this be bad? It feels so good. I'm your type, you're my type. And like, it was just an unfortunate situation that we wouldn't have met if it weren't for you having met her. So I guess it justify, what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't justify any of that, And so I think I would be interested in you having a conversation with him and saying, hey, listen, first of all, like, can I just say, like, I like you. Like, I'm excited about this. This is fun. I feel like you feel the same way. That's exciting. And hopefully he says, yeah, me too. And then you could say something like, but I do want to talk to you a little bit about, like, I feel a little bit bad about how he handled it, and, it is what it is, but like, I know that I wouldn't have wanted someone to treat me the way we treated her. And I'm not saying this to make either of us feel bad, but I guess I just want to have a conversation with you about it. And I'm just curious how you feel about it, because like, I still want to pursue you, but I just want to recognize that I wish I would have handled that a little bit more thoughtfully and empathetically as it relates to her, because I think we could have pursued each other while being more considerate to her feelings. And I'm just curious about what he would say, or maybe you've had that conversation already.
We have had that conversation, and we went through every scenario. Tell her, don't tell her. Let's date each other and see where it goes. Because what if we end up dating and we're like, I'm not into you, and you're like, I'm not into you. Then do we tell? I mean, we've already fucked. So, I mean, do we tell her like, hey, we're dating, we're trying to whatever? Like, I know that friendship's going to be done and dusted. I know that. But at the same time, it's like, when I guess we've gone through him and I every route of what to do. And it's kind of like, I always think about other people, which I think is a great quality to have. But at the same time, it's like, if this is the person that every fuckboy settles down eventually, like, what if I'm that person or we get along? Like, do we avoid that because of her or not? And he's told me, I've been honest with her, I don't want to be with her. He says, she calls me, and now he's kind of, since we've been dating for the past 2 or 3 weeks, he's kind of backed off from that. And he's like, I haven't really heard from her in 3 days. So do we kind of let that, take care of itself? Do we tell her? Because eventually I know I'm going to have to tell her, because I'd want her to hear it from me versus somebody else in the friend group or through social media or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think the most mature thing to do would be for you to tell her. Okay. Because you have the relationship technically. You're the friend, right, and he's just her fuckboy. So he could tell her, But yeah, I think if is it better to hear from him than you? I guess I would say you, just because
Right.
she already probably doesn't think much of him anyways. I wouldn't make excuses, you know. I would apologize and say it's along the lines of, I'm sorry for the way I handled this. I wish I would have talked to you first, but I was a little selfish and inconsiderate. I was just worried that I would upset you, and that's not an excuse, but you kind of took the easy way out. You tested it first, and whatever. I'm not trying to come down on you, but like, listen, our character is all we really have, and sometimes we fuck up, but like we can learn and going forward. But I want you to set yourself up for success with this guy, and he has some obvious red flags. And I think it's just good that you take things slow with this guy. You know, you can be excited and take things slow. All these little things he does, you know, oh, he got me flowers, whatever. Those are nice, but like early on, they're kind of meaningless, because like he's excited about you, and the fact that he, you know, likes you more than he likes her he's probably telling himself, oh, well, that must make her more special or whatever. And I don't, you know, maybe this is an amazing thing, but he is comparing you two. And so that's an advantage for you right now, but you know, maybe who knows, after 3 or 4 weeks or 2 or 3 months, when that drama has gone away and she's completely out of the picture, that could change how he feels. I don't know.
Right. And I guess my thing is I guess time will tell, but
Sure.
I don't want this to turn into a situationship and then it blowing up in my face, which it very well might so be, but it's like it can either go one way or another. And I mean, I'm interested in him, he seems interested in me, but there's something telling me like this is just going to blow up in your face, and it might.
It might. Yeah, we can't tell. There's definitely some red flags,
Right.
but you know, you have to set, what are your boundaries for this relationship? What do you want? If you want to pursue him, you should have conversations with him about having a relationship. I mean, this has moved fairly quickly. So while I think you should slow things down in a sense about like, don't play house, you know, don't be afraid to want to hang out with him, but still not hang out with him. You know, so instead of like hanging, you know, if all of a sudden you hung out with 2 days in a row and you're like, I'll be honest, I'd love to see you a third day in a row. Maybe you just, you know, say, let's just hang out on Sunday instead of Thursday. You know what I'm saying? Like, just don't be afraid to space it out, and don't be afraid to, you know, make sure you hang out with other friends all while you're hanging out with him, and things just have to progress, you know? And in the meantime, when you do hang out with him, don't be afraid to have conversations and ask him questions about relationships and dating and get to know him, you know, because again, people often, like in your shoes, will just run off the high. You'll run off the wave, and you won't really talk about each other and get to know each other. It'll be like surface level, like, do you like roller coasters? I'm like, I like roller coasters too. Like, oh my God, we're in love. You know, like that's the conversations people often have early on when they're really excited. They don't have the, you know, deeper, more meaningful conversations that really help you get to know someone. And so just don't be afraid to have those types of conversations. I've said this before, there's this great game out there called We're Really Not Strangers, I think it is. And it's just like they're just question prompts, you know, and maybe on a date early on you bust out that game and say, I want to play this game with you. And like some of those questions might not apply because some of them are more deeper. And so maybe you go through it early on and pick out some good questions that like you think would, you know, help you get to know him a little bit better, help him get to know you a little bit better. You know, might scratch the surface of some vulnerability a little bit. Like you don't want to get too heavy, you know. But also you don't even need the game if you're good at coming up with questions. That's just nice because they've already thought of a lot of like good, thoughtful questions that help people open up. But just challenge yourself to focus on questions that are relationship specific, and don't be afraid to, you know, say, hey, listen, I definitely want to see you. I'm busy for the next couple of days because you're going to prioritize your friends or your work or whatever. Just don't lose yourself in the excitement of it all, and just be in control of the situation. Think to yourself, I want to drive this. So set your standards and set your expectations with him. And that will only like make him more excited about you as well, that you like, you're available and then not available a little bit, but just think, as long as we're progressing, after you go on a date or a couple dates, think to yourself, do I know him a little bit more than I did for the previous date? Great. But I always still have a lot more to get to know, and even when it feels like you've run out of things to ask him, trust me, you have more to get to know. And sometimes it's going to be situational. You're just gonna have to be in situations and see how they respond. But I think if you focus on pursuing this as a relationship and stay on track, and then have certain boundaries for yourself of like, I don't want this to be a situationship. So what are scenarios in which I want to avoid, and then maybe that might pop up and say, and as soon as you feel it, just, know to call it out or pull back.
Well, it's funny you say that, because he's he's been like, well, last night I worked the late shift, and he was like, well, why don't you come over afterwards? And I was like, well, I haven't been home all day. My cat's at home. I need to go with her. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, like, you're always welcome to come here. And I was like, oh, well, maybe this weekend or whatever. And then he's like, well, do you want to go on a date on Friday? We can, do this or do that. So in a weird way, I do feel like I have the upper hand in this, and I've been. And
that's great. I love that energy. Like, instead of like coming over for the late night hookup, make sure he's taking you out on dates.
And then I've said too, like, well, my cat's at home. I don't want to leave her alone. And he's like, well, I'll come over there. And I'm like, okay. Or, oh, well, she can, you can bring her over here. Like, I'll do this and that. And he has. So it's that game. And I can kind of tell whenever I have the upper hand. And for a couple days, he's had the upper hand a little bit. So I kind of have to play that, back and forth and whatnot. And I do have plans to hang out with other friends on Saturday and such. So I've been like, well, I do have plans on Saturday, but I can't on Friday. And so I don't tell them, what I'm doing. So
yeah. But think of it less of as a game and more of you just like not dropping off the face of the earth with the other things you have in your life. And as long as you keep that focus, it will just seem less gamey rather than you just like trying to fuck around with him. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like, you're, as far as he is concerned, it sounds like you're at a decent spot. Just take it slow. And again, just be willing to keep getting to know him and ask him questions. But I wouldn't be, given the pace in which it's going, I would define the relationship fairly soon.
Okay. And then you think I should probably call my friend like today after this podcast or the next day, or do you wait till my date after I talk to him?
Why do you, I mean, I would let him know. I wouldn't ask for his permission. I would say, hey, listen, I've thought about this. I just need to call her. I know she's going to hate me and whatever, but I don't love how I handled it. And I just want to try to do the right thing here, even if that means, her thinking whatever of me. But, how she feels about you or how she's going to feel about you shouldn't stop you from doing the right thing. And no matter what she says, you will still like feel good that you at least tried to fix a bad situation. And in the future, just remember, to have a little bit more patience and, not give into the moment so easily. But, we've all been there. I had
all the plans to not give into the moment. And look where we're at right
and that just made it hotter, I'm sure, and more fun. And
it did.
Probably got you some oral sex.
It did.
We're only human. But, we just have to live and learn and try to do the right thing going forward. Most people just keep making excuses and keep justifying it and never own up to it. So good for you for being willing to do that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good luck. Proceed with caution. Keep us very much posted. Yeah.
I absolutely will, Nick. Maybe you'll see me on a future episode.
All right. Well, either way, yes, we definitely want an update for sure, no matter how it goes. All right. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Nick, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
How's it going?
Hi, it's going good. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
Jessica, and I am 32 years old.
How can we help, Jessica?
I was in an open relationship with my husband because it was long distance. And now that it's no longer long distance, I just am not sure how I feel about our relationship.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Wow. Fun.
Yeah.
For us.
It's a fun story.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I guess the big question is, I mean, I'd love to know just, I mean, for fun, for us, for the audience, I'm sure they'd be interested in how you guys even broached the subject about being in an open relationship while it was long distance, and how did that go? I'm really curious about how you guys communicated things. Was he also in an open relationship? And I'm really curious about how you guys maneuvered and communicated while that was going on.
Yeah, so just to like preface this, I'm very untraditional. Like I never really believed in marriage. I've never been in an open relationship. I've always been in long-term relationships. However, I did meet my husband overseas. And as you may or may not know, the process to have a spouse come and move with you from another country is very daunting. It takes a long time, and we got married right before the pandemic. So everything just took a lot longer. So we were long distance for 4 years of our relationship. The last year-ish, I actually did cheat on my husband by kissing someone that I was spending time with, a friend that kind of sparked into something else. I let my husband know minutes after, bawling my eyes out, obviously. Felt a lot of guilt, went to therapy. We kind of worked through it. And then I started having the feelings that I wanted to do it again. And I did communicate that with him. Was very honest that I'm having a hard time being apart, being lonely. It was impacting my mental health. And then my therapist did recommend trying an open relationship. We talked about it, never did it. And then eventually we did agree to do it. My husband was less on board with it than I was. However, we were kind of just at a spot where either we were going to break up because I just couldn't do this long distance anymore, or we were going to try something new, and I was willing to just try something new. So we tried that. It was a lot of fun for me. I really enjoyed my time. I just felt young, dating again, going out. Him and I slowed down our communication quite a lot during that time, which was also nice for both of us, I think, because being long distance, you're talking nonstop all day, every day, and it's just exhausting.
Yeah, it can get stressful.
Yeah. So then, to just sum it up, pretty much all of a sudden, things with our application for him to move here just started moving very quickly. And I pretty much went from sleeping with other people to my husband living here full time with me in my home. And it sucks. It is really hard. I'm not going to put it lightly. Like, it is not fun to just it feels like we got married overnight. Like I went from being single almost to just married the next day, living with someone full time. So
what,
yeah.
when you guys got married, or when you were dating before you got married in your courtship, like, was that long distance, or did you like go overseas?
It's always been long distance.
It's always been long distance. Was it a fairly quick engagement?
Well, we technically didn't get engaged. I just asked him one day if he wanted to get married, and when next time I came in, we just started planning it. He did propose to me, and I said no. Like I said, I just am not like an engaged.
You're
not
a complicated
a
creature. Yeah.
I am very complicated. Yes, that is what my therapist says too. But yeah, we did date for a year prior to getting married. And yeah, it was very quick. But for me, it didn't feel quick because I dated someone for 7 years and 4 years, and I just never saw marriage. But with him, I saw it almost immediately.
And do you still see it? Like, what are the qualities that you see in him that made you broach that subject? Because there's the whole sex part and the physical element, which is, I love sex, and I love that I'm physically attracted to my fiance, and I love that about a relationship, but I also recognize and am grateful that there is so much more to that relationship as our relationship evolves, right? Like, I hope we're fucking until we're 70s, and I hope we're having weird sex, and when we're 90, but like, I'm also, understand that like there's a lot more to our relationship than the physical aspect of it, and that's why I want to spend the rest of my life with her. And I'm curious, like, what are the qualities you saw in him that made you want to bring that up, just even being someone who wasn't even into the idea in the first place?
Yeah, good question. I still feel, so I'll list off a few things, but like I still feel all of these things today. So that adds another layer of complication. But I just find I'm a very outgoing person. I am very wild. I like to have a good time. I'm kind of like, I don't know. I can be loud, obnoxious a little bit, and he's more calm, caring, kind. I'm not a very patient person. He's very patient with me. He just has like a drive and motivation about him that I really admire because I also do in my career. And yeah, I don't know, he's just like a very deep thinker is how, like he thinks of everything so deeply, like something so simple, like a video that he'll watch
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube or like Disney movies make him sad. Like just things
Yeah.
like that. So we work really well and we communicated so well apart, but now that he's here, I'm irritable. I just feel like the
Yeah, he's
sense of like
invading
my
your space.
independence.
I mean, I can get,
Yeah.
I get the feeling of like it feels like we got married overnight. I get that, but you are married now, and
Yeah.
you made a commitment to each other. Um, and it sounds like you're being a bit more to a lot more selfish than he is. And it sounds
Yes.
like he loves you and he seems like he's been willing to do this for you because it didn't sound like something that he was personally interested in, but more like okay to do it and being the thoughtful person that he is. Maybe he was like, you know what, I guess I can, I can do this, right?
That's accurate. Yeah,
What are you
that's
doing
accurate.
for him? What are you
Mhm.
doing to meet his needs and go out of your way, and what sacrifices have you, if at all, are you making for him? Because eventually he's just going to get sick of it being a bit one-sided when it comes to going out of his way to meet your needs. And I'm just curious, is there anything at all that you're doing right now in terms of going out of your way to meet his needs that is as obvious to him as it is to you?
Yeah, no, you're pretty bang on there. I can't name a whole bunch. I guess some of the things that I kind of feel like I like hold over his head almost unintentionally, but he was never able to visit me because of the restrictions within his country. So I was always having to visit him. Financially, it was expensive and
Sure. Okay, well,
due
that's
to different
nice. Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of something that has always been complicated in our relationship. I always just felt like I was always sacrificing and sacrificing and sacrificing. Now he's here and I can confidently say there's not too much that I'm doing aside from providing him a beautiful place to live and like providing him with opportunities and showing him things. But yeah,
Which
in
is
terms of
something,
what I'm doing,
that's something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but in terms of like how I feel like I'm being towards him, I can recognize in myself that I'm not being fair or I'm just like kind of, I don't know, at his head a little bit when he doesn't really deserve it. He's not doing anything aside from just being there and I'm like, "Oh, you're
And
always
what
here."
what conversations I mean, has he even found a job yet?
Yeah, so he
Yeah.
started
Okay,
working
that's good.
4 days after he got here.
Great.
So, yeah, it's good him
What
working, but
what
then he's still home alone.
conversations have you had with him about this? Like, how aware of is he of your frustrations?
Yeah, he's pretty aware. And like I said, like therapy helps me I'm overly aware of the way I am, which is a gift and a curse, but I definitely notice when I'm being selfish or irritable or unreasonable. And I see those things in myself right now. And I'm like, is it because this is new and a transition, or is it maybe we're just not compatible? I don't know.
Well, it's definitely new, and it's definitely a transition, and that's definitely affecting it. So I don't know if you really will be able to tell anytime soon. Uh, you know, yeah. Well, but you say you're not sure if we're compatible. What makes you think we're not compatible? Because nothing, you haven't described any incompatibility. What you've described is, your kind of outgoing spirit, and listen, you were given this kind of freedom, um, and you had this really understanding and empathetic husband that allowed you to truly have your cake and eat it too, and you could be emotionally invested in your relationship with your husband while getting a variety of some really good dick. And like that sounds like fucking great for, like for someone who's like a more sexually driven person, and you guys had this expectation that would stop when he moved out. And yeah, I mean, it's just like you're being asked to like give that up cold turkey. And so that's just going to be it's a change. It's a dramatic change. And that has nothing to do with necessarily compatibility. It's just more like it's a completely different shift in the relationship. He's there all the time. You know, you can't independent. All of a sudden you have to give up dating other people. It's just a totally different relationship. And so
Yeah.
Compatibility, I see more in terms of like your both your personalities, your ability, your wants and desires. I mean, yeah, like, hey, we're not compatible. I want to fuck other people. He doesn't. Like, I get that. Sure, that would be a point of incompatibility. But I feel like what you're feeling now seems more like just a very drastic shift in the dynamic of your relationship, more so than compatibility. You just have to decide, like, what you want. Like, do you even? To me, it's more like, do you even want to be married? And if you are married, what does that marriage look like? And is he the type of person who can meet your needs with the type of non-traditional relationship that you're looking for? Or can you settle into this new dynamic, communicate through couples therapy, know when to take some breaks, and maybe it's just like, yeah, like it's just like it's just you need your independence was just kind of ripped out from you from under the rug, and sounds like you're a fairly independent person. And so maybe you just need to kind of get used to that, all while simultaneously find ways to, you know, have your alone time or your independent time, et cetera, and just kind of find different ways to do that so that you don't feel, you know, claustrophobic in your relationship, and you don't feel like anxious and annoyed by him and things like that.
Yeah, and we've definitely been trying different things. Like sometimes I'll get home and I'll be like, you know what, I just want to be alone right now. Is it okay if I have the bedroom and you can go in the living room, vice versa? Like, we are working on that. And I guess your question of what I want is a complicated one. I truly don't know. And I don't know if it's that I'm not ready for marriage, or just that, you know what, I went from just having like a great time being single. But I'm 32. Do I want to be, and I'm not in a rush to like start life by any means, not to have children either right now. But I guess like I just feel like he's like the perfect person that I could want, yet I'm still like kind of like craving that single life a little bit. So yeah, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I kind of just need to make a decision, and I'm hoping you'll make it for me so I don't have to.
I'm definitely not going to make it for you. I mean, yeah, because it's just I don't know. How is he open to having an open relationship with you?
We haven't discussed that, and I'm not necessarily sure that now that we're both in the same place, it's even something I would be okay with. But
Why not? I mean, that doesn't seem to track.
I guess it's just that when you're long distance, you don't get to see firsthand what time they come home or those sorts of things. It's kind of a little bit more mystery to it, and like the less you know,
maybe you need
the
a little
better.
jealousy in your relationship.
Yeah, you're
to
probably
appreciate
right.
what you could be losing.
Yeah, no, that's very fair as well, and probably true. I think like right now it would be good for him to just start, like, we're trying to work on him making like friendships at work and stuff, so he could start going out with his
Yeah.
group of friends, and kind of like not just with mine, because now when I go out he has to always come with, or he doesn't, but then I feel bad that he's like at home, and I'm like, well, I want him to start going out too, so yeah, I can kind of feel that like sense of like, oh, I miss you. Where are you? What are you doing? You know?
What does your therapist say about this kind of mindset that you have? I mean, you know, 32, whatever, you still like enjoy but like your free time. Relationships are about sacrifice. I mean, it comes down to, do you want to be in a relationship ever? And if so, like, you know, 33, 34, 35, 36, you know, nothing, at some point if you want to be in a monogamous relationship, you are going to have to make some sacrifices, you know, and any person who enjoys sex, and any person who likes hot people, or like likes to, you know, like, you just see people, and as appreciator of beauty, like in my relationship, like I'm not a jealous guy. So like I don't want to pretend that Natalie doesn't find other men attractive. You know what I'm saying? Like I love that she makes me feel incredibly desired, and I love that she makes me feel like above all things that it's me she wants and desires. But I don't need to like pretend, and I don't want to hear it. I don't need her to tell me, but I just recognize that there are other people she finds attractive. And again, I love that she's willing to give up that independence and freedom for me because she loves me, and I'm just wondering, do you think you're ever going to get to a point where you're going to want to make that sacrifices for someone? Because it doesn't sound to me like he's not worth it. It just sounds to me that you're kind of at a place where you're like, I just don't know if I want to do this for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. And that is, I don't know. I guess it's challenging because I've always been in relationships and I never had this urge or issue with like
You
wanting
never
to like
married
have
before. You always had the
True.
ability to be like, I can
It's
break up with you. Like it's very
right.
different to know that
It's
like
the feeling of forever, right?
Yeah.
That word forever is terrifying. And so I guess I'm just like trying to wrap my head around what forever looks like, or I guess right now it feels like things aren't so great. So the word forever being attached to something that's not feeling great is challenging for me, where I'm like,
Sure.
well, I could just be happy and not have to be
Well, you're
worrying
literally
about
talking
this.
to us right now about the possibility of ending the relationship. So you recognize that despite a marriage being supposing to be forever, like you can get out of it,
Yes.
And you
that's
are
true.
married, and there's nothing like you've already made that decision. So, it will require lawyers and it will be messy, but like there's no point in psyching yourself out about what that it means. Actually, it doesn't mean forever if you don't want to be in it, Yeah. I just think maybe, listen, you guys have survived an open relationship of dating, and maybe there's a middle ground, Like, for example, I have multiple friends who have explored non-traditional, who are married, who have explored non-traditional relationships, right? It doesn't mean like they're like active swingers who are hanging pineapple. I love that I know the pineapple part now. We have
I listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. That doesn't mean you need to be like on the dating apps and constantly fucking around and things like that. Like I have friends where like they have definitely explored these non-traditional relationships. There's parties people go to, and it's like every once in a great while they dip their toes in the water. Different. They have their own things and different dynamics, but like it's infrequent and it's rare. But when it happens, it's exhilarating and fun for both of them. Now, this is something they both mutually enjoy, and it's become a part of their relationship. But they have a lot of limitations and boundaries and a lot of communication, right? And just knowing that it's potentially on the table for you to, you guys to dabble in, maybe that's an option. But again, he needs to get on board with that too, and want to do that. He can't just do it for you forever. He's only going to have so much patience before he's just like, can you stop fucking other dudes? Like, and
yeah, and it's a thing with him that I don't feel like that's just not his style. And I think and like, yes, I was fucking other dudes, but like, to put it nicely, like I was also just like dating them. Like I would, like, most of the people that I slept with, or it was just a few, and I have a hard time just sleeping with someone. I also have to have some sort of emotional connection. So I guess it was less an open relationship, more polyamory. I don't really know, but
sure.
Yeah, I don't see that being something he would want to be on board with. And even if he agrees to it, I do know that isn't something he likes. So it's just not something I really want to do with him.
So
anymore.
what does your
like I just need to
therapist say about
decide.
this desire to want to build multiple emotional connections with people?
Yeah, like childhood shit, I'm sorry, am I allowed to share?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I guess it's just like I like to have a sense of control in my life, and when things aren't going the way that I like them, I like to change them so that I can be in control of my feelings and emotions, and I just don't like relying on someone for that. And I guess in a marriage, you can be like stressed because of someone else, or angry because of someone else, or whatever it is, and I think that's challenging for me. Yeah, I like to have control.
Sure. Well, it's good to
Working through it
recognize.
actively. Yeah.
I think it would be hasty of you to end this right now, given that you're still in this very huge adjustment period. You know, you're gonna have to decide.
That's a relief to hear.
You're gonna have to decide for yourself. And it sounds like you guys have potential a lot of different types of conversations you could have, and you could explore different things. I mean, at the end of the day, you are married to this guy. And if you're going to be married, you guys are going to have tough conversations at times about your feelings. And you have to create a safe space that you both can, whether it's with just alone in your room or through couples therapy, to just talk openly about, you know, your personal struggles and then figure out potential solutions and see if you can get there. But so, you know, step one, you know, just I think you need to communicate with him a little bit more about your struggles. And then just see if he's willing to continue to be this empathetic, understanding and thoughtful person that he has been, and then go from there. But like, I definitely think there's a strong chance you could settle in and feel a lot less anxious about things and feel a lot less suffocated, because it is a lot that all happened at once. It was just a drastic change overnight, quite literally, it sounds like. And yeah, I can understand why you're in panic mode. But like that might pass, especially, you know, he starts making new friends, you know, things like that. And, you know, maybe you guys dabble in something non-traditional and maybe you allow, you know, he is still a guy. So, I mean, like, you know, like, he's like, okay, fine, I'll fuck her. You know, like, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, you know, like, you know, and maybe, who knows, that might re-energize your, like, might make you a little jealous. It might make you want to protect him and never want to do it again. But I think I think right now what you should focus on is trying to really better communicate with your husband. Don't be afraid to have any conversation with him. You know, lead with love, make him feel secure and safe. Let him know how much you care about him before you drop the, like, I'm still struggling. Like, you know, make sure he knows all the good aspects of the relationship that you feel before you bring up other things, and just ask. And also, when you are having these tough conversations with him, make sure you are very grateful and express gratitude for his willingness to have these conversations. I don't know how grateful you were in the past when you were having an open relationship while it was long distance, but I would make sure that you really show some appreciation for how understanding he was, you know?
Yes, of course.
You know, men love to be like, just, they love to be appreciated, and they love to be complimented, and they love to, like, feel valued. And so make sure he's feeling valued right now, even though you're struggling, and see if you can create an open line of communication with your husband that allows you to work through issues. And I think if you can build that will really probably make you, you know, like, having that with Natalie now, like, it's just like, wow, I never want to let that go. That ability to have a relationship where we can have some tough conversations and we can sit down calmly and express our vulnerabilities and our insecurities and concerns and fears without triggering the other person, and just want to talk through things because we just want to make this relationship work. And there's not a doubt in our mind of how much we love and care about each other, you know, despite being humans and having desires and having fears and insecurities and things from our past and stuff like that. And when you have that, that's the thing you want to protect the most. And so work towards having that with your husband. And it sounds like you have a chance to have it, because this is a guy who allowed you to, like, date other people while he was, you know, this is a very understanding guy you're married to, and take advantage of that and try to build off of that and see if that makes you feel a little less anxious and a little less stressed out, because you're now in your head, and now you're maybe avoiding having these conversations because you don't want to let them down, but that's not going to get you to the place you need to be, you know, happy and content in this relationship.
No, that's fantastic advice, and kind of what I needed to hear. I think it's good to hear a different perspective and to kind of have just a way of thinking to move forward, rather than me jumping off the cliff and being like, I'm done, I'm out of here.
Yeah, just take a breath and just it's okay to say to yourself, it's normal that it makes sense that I'm feeling this way. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to be married to him, and it doesn't mean I don't love him. It just means it was just a lot at once. And for someone who can get a little like emotionally claustrophobic, I'm feeling that right now, and I just need to find the tools to regulate my emotions a little bit better, and just work towards that. And it can be a goal. You can literally focus on that rather than focus on how suffocated you feel.
Okay.
But recognize it first, and then focus on trying to build this communication with your husband. And who knows what's going to happen. Maybe you guys decide that it's just not the right fit. But I wouldn't make decisions in this moment right now, given that it would be more of a reactionary decision rather than a thoughtful decision.
Okay, no, that's great. I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you so much.
Well, please keep us posted.
Yeah, I will for
We
sure.
we would love ongoing updates. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
I'll definitely give those to you. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
My name is Lauren and I'm 24 years old.
How can we help, Lauren?
Well, my boyfriend drinks 3 to 4 glasses of whiskey every night, and I'm wondering what I can do. Well, if it's a problem, and what I can do to maybe fix it.
Okay. Do you think it's a problem? Like, other than that he
Yes.
does it, do you see that it changes his behavior? Like, why do you feel it's a problem?
Well, many reasons, I guess. First of all, this has been going on for a long time. I've expressed to him multiple times that I don't feel totally comfortable with it, and he continues to do it. So that in itself, I think, is a problem. And then he's lied to me about how much he's consumed, which I think that's also a problem. And then I've just had history of addiction in my family, and
Okay,
so it
sure.
it hits close to home, I guess.
The lying to you about it bothers me more than the fact that he still continues to do it, even though you've expressed his frustrations. I'm not saying it's not
Mm-hmm.
nothing, but I'm just saying that's a little trickier in relationships because,
Yeah.
we have the right to have our outlets, and
Yeah.
none of us want to be in a relationship where our partners tell us we can't do something. So that's a little
Exactly.
trickier. But lying about it, there's really no excuse for that, because the I didn't want to make you mad is, to me, never been an excuse. I still have like PTSD from my very first girlfriend. I feel very strongly about that, because it was always like, well, I didn't want to make you mad. I'm like, I have a right to be mad. But
Yeah.
does it change his behavior? Like, so as far as the drinking specifically, and the fact that you have addiction in your family, you're sensitive to it.
Mm-hmm.
How is he with 3 to 4 glasses of whiskey in his system every night?
I mean,
Is he like noticeably drunk?
I can definitely tell when he's buzzed, but he doesn't think I can tell. Like, he slurs his words. He doesn't talk as straight through. He stays up way later. So we live together. So I feel like we don't get as much quality time in the evenings when
Sure.
he's just drinking and watching TV by himself.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's
you
kind of where the
think,
line comes from too.
Do you think he has a drinking problem?
I don't think he's an alcoholic, but I also feel like it's not a good place to start when you're 26 years old. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I mean, I'm not certainly an expert on those things, but I smoke weed every night,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
and I've, on a personal level, it's just like, I know it affects your brain, and weirdly enough, now
Mhm.
that I got engaged, I'm like, I really want to take care of myself. I mean, taking care of myself has always mattered to me, but I
Mhm.
haven't had a lot of vices in my life. I didn't do anything, and I was, I drank in my 20s. I always hated, I never really liked getting drunk, and so I do like relaxing at the end of the night, and
Mhm.
every once in a while, and I'm a little stoned, I was fucking rambling, and like Natalie will roll her eyes, but it's like not an issue or anything like that. But it's nice to have that outlet.
Yeah.
Where was I going with this? But it was more, it's like, I guess what I'm saying, it's just like, there's, it bothers you out of principle, or it actually, his behavior is affecting the relationship. And I guess I also brought it up because despite, me thinking about my health and knowing that like, yeah, like it's a fairly, safe drug, and one that has maybe less side effects than others and things like that. And it doesn't like, I feel fine, and like I wake up very productive and work out, and I don't do a lot of it. But at the same time, like, Natalie and I've had conversations about like, I don't like that I do it every night or things like that, and I do care about her input, and the fact that like if he's drinking 3 to 4 a night by himself, like, is there a way that would he be willing to slow it down, or yeah, because I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out could you guys find the balance? Because like I'm not an expert, and I don't like four a night is a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of booze. One drink a night is like fine, but like it's not healthy. Like alcohol is a terrible drug. It's like really harmful.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I stand because I don't want to be controlling. I don't want to tell him what to do. I don't want to be, his mom, and I don't really care that he drinks. I mean, I drink. Do I drink every single night or to the extent that he does? No, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't ever have a glass of wine after work, or I don't ever go out to the bar on a weeknight occasionally, because I do, but I think for me, it's just the lack of trust because of how long it has gone on.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like the lying, not great. That's
No.
affected the trust he's had with you. But it also maybe like if I were you, I could understand the frustration about. It's not that he does it; it's just that like it's every night, and no matter what, like he doesn't seem to be willing to make any exceptions. Because it was like, hey, babe, if he was like, babe, all right, listen, it's just I need to unwind, whatever, and I really this helps me, but like, yeah, I definitely like 4's a lot. I need to tone it down, and maybe I'll pick like if he showed an attempt to like reduce how much he drank, my guess is that would go a long way.
Yeah, and he has before because we've had the same conversations for like 2 years almost, where we have the conversation and then he slows it down, and then like 2 weeks later it picks back up again, and then we have the same conversation, and then he lies about something, about him drinking, and then we're just back to the same old thing. And so that's where lack of trust and comes in, and I almost feel like he's not respecting the way I feel about it. Or he does for a week, but
yeah, I'm curious. And I also grew up in a family with addiction, so I just want to like throw a lot of empathy your way, because it is like so torturous. And I think like in my experience, there's this like constant monitoring and like really kind of like taking on, you're like hyper vigilant, and like you can notice like even the subtlest like slur, like if someone's pupils are dilated, like it kind of creates this condition within your brain where everything is super pronounced and obvious. And I know it can be also really hard to talk about. For me, it was so hard to talk about because it felt like I was violating privacy of this family member who I loved and feel very loyal to. But I'm curious if you have ever spoken to him about your experience growing up with it, and if so, like what those conversations have looked like.
Yeah. When it first started bothering me, I decided to open up to him about it and how it impacted me and what I all went through, and ultimately I'm thankful, for rehab and those kinds of things, and the situation that happened because of where my family is at now. But I needed him to know what happened to me for him to understand where I'm coming from, that I'm not just trying to be like a controlling girlfriend. I just am very hyper aware, and lying really triggers it.
Yeah, man. Like I don't know how they define alcoholic, but like 4 drinks a night seems like a lot, especially if it's Like when you heard that, what were your thoughts? Like how would like a substance abuse expert, I know we're not, but if you had to guess.
Yeah, like if you like within the DSM, like the psychology manual, there's a bunch of different factors. Like so there's like the amount. I think for women it's like 3 or more glasses or 4 or more, and for men 4 or more is considered like binge drinking.
Wise because
but it's also about like how much money are you spending? Are you lying to friends or family about it? Like are you drinking more and more to receive the same effect? So a lot of it is kind of contextualized. And so I think
so there's some potential red flags here.
It also maybe what I guess you might be feeling, and please tell me if this is accurate or not, is like it's not necessarily like red alert, we're off the cliff right now, but it feels like we're like too close to the edge for your own comfort, where it's like this isn't necessarily the end of the world, but it feels like one step further would be really upsetting and really triggering and like not a very like manageable circumstance for you to be in a relationship.
Yeah. And I know I shouldn't think so far in the future, but I think about if he never changed and we got married and we had kids, like would I want my kids to see this every night? And
I don't think
the
there's anything wrong
answer is
with thinking
no.
about that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
They're just those are tough questions we have to ask ourselves. How long have you been dating?
2 years.
2 years. You've been dating this guy for 2 years. You're an adult person. Like you wouldn't be dating if you didn't see a future with him. Like it's important to ask yourself those questions. And those are fair questions because that matters, you know, like the households we grow up in and you know, whether it matters. And so I guess all I'm saying is I wouldn't feel any guilt for thinking about that or feeling paranoid or you're not crazy, you know, like those are normal and acceptable questions to ask, and he's giving you justifiable reasons to have these concerns. The lying being the first, you know, the biggest one, because it's like, why did he feel like he needed to lie? Like like lying to you wasn't as important as having a drink. That matters, you know, and so if you play that forward, like, you know, when you get married and have kids, stresses don't reduce, they increase.
100%, yeah.
And so we need positive outlets to deal with our stress. And we need to be able to manage, you know, if we have vices, we need to know that we can manage them and do it safely. And yeah, these are tough questions.
Nick, I think we were talking about this at some point when I was dating someone and I like wasn't sure about their drinking habits. And I think one thing you said that really resonated with me that maybe applies here is that kind of framing it from you're doing something wrong or like anything that could be construed as judgmental, and kind of reframing it as like, I have sensitivities in this area. Like, you know, there's some people for whom like they could date someone who drinks 4 glasses of whiskey a night, no big deal. Their parents had a bottle of wine every night. It doesn't, you know, they have no addiction in their family. It doesn't stir anything up. Like, it's not an issue for them. But like for you, given your personal history, like this is something that impacts you deeply. And so making sure that you frame it in a way of not like you're wrong and bad and like that shame response that like only fuels the cycle of needing a release. And it seems like this is his release right now.
Yeah.
But of like just like hey, like, can you like, not instead of like you're a bad guy, but like, can you be the hero? Like, can you accommodate me a little bit in this way? And maybe if, you know, framing it in that way doesn't trigger the shame defensiveness, that could be helpful.
It's a version of asking for help, which is a very kind of disarming approach to conflict. You know, people love to help people. People love to be a hero, and
That's true.
It's a fun manipulation tactic. No, but I mean, it's amazing how many people don't like to ask for help. But especially men, but I don't subscribe to that because it gets people to do what you want them to do. But yeah, and to Amanda's point, yeah, go ahead.
Don't you think it's a problem that we've had reoccurring conversations about it? Like that's the part that gets me the most. Like, what am I not saying to him, or what can I voice differently, or at what point do I just do I need to take it more seriously that things aren't changing, I guess?
So I'm not remembering the exact statistic, but they did a study on Vietnam War veterans who, when they were in Vietnam, were using heroin. And I think we all culturally, like, heroin is, like, I consider it the most addictive substance on earth. And there was something like, when they left Vietnam and came back to their life in the US, it was like something like 80 to 90% of them stayed sober, and it was because they were in a completely different environment. And so I think a different self-help book that I read spoke about, goal setting is important, but like, there are people who have goals and achieve them, and people who have goals who don't achieve them. Like, it is not the goal that determines success, it's the systems in place. And so I think it's being like, it's not, and of course, like, you want it to be enough for him to hear you and understand where you're coming from, and to have empathy and want to help in that way, where, there is a clear way that he could help you in changing his behavior. I think maybe it's looking at more like ways to change the environment slightly. Like, I don't know if maybe you guys like go out to a setting where there's not alcohol one night a week, or
like take him like axe throwing or something, where you probably shouldn't have 4 glasses beforehand anyways.
Yeah.
Or like a pottery class.
Our axe throwing is inside of like a bar. So
Oh no.
Yeah.
Somewhere else. Huh?
But I think maybe seeing like like maybe talking to him and being like, hey, like, I know that I know habits are a bitch to break, like, no judgment, but like, do you think, like, I don't know, like asking him if he's notices that there are certain things like that, kind of the point in the night when he decides he wants to drink, and like just kind of maybe looking at ways that you might be able to change like his environment, because it's like, it's hard to change a habit, even one that's not with an addictive substance.
Yeah, but that's all great. And I think kind of that point of the things Amanda brought up earlier, like on some level, you're asking him, or going to have to continue to ask him, to be mindful about his drinking habits and make some adjustments. You don't know exactly what those adjustments need to be, but what you want, and what seems to be fair, is that you want him to make it a priority to make some adjustments, and maybe through couples counseling or whatever. And how he responds to that request, to me, is like what's really going to determine whether this is a relationship for you or not. Because does he continue to lie? That might lead you down a path of, maybe there's a bigger problem than we realize. Does he get defensive about it? Because if he has a substance abuse problem or alcoholic, my guess is, he will get very defensive, versus someone who could be like, you know what? Like I said, like, I smoke weed. I've been smoking weed almost every night for the better part of a year, but I'm also like, then I think about it, it's like, I don't like that I do that, and I know I'm not addicted to it, and I can, there's been nights where I don't do it, but it's just more like, it just helps me relax, and there's really no like immediate side effects. I know there's long-term like risks and side effects, and especially when it comes to brain, and it doesn't affect our relationship. It doesn't upset Natalie. But I personally don't like it, and I'm just like, I should probably make some adjustments. But, if I was addicted to it, and if I had a substance abuse problem, my guess is I'd be a lot more defensive about it and resistant, and I would be like, oh, I don't need to do that. I don't care. And like, I can recognize it's like, it's maybe not the healthiest habit, and I probably need to make some changes. And I think how he responds to you just suggesting that he makes some adjustments is going to go a long way. Does that make sense? For it's just like, if you're just like, hey, babe, this is sensitive to me. I've grew up in a family like, I've dealt with this with my family. I'm not asking you to stop drinking, but I'm just asking you to like make some adjustments and stay consistent to it. And I'm asking you to never, ever lie to me about it. And if he can do that, then I think it's manageable. If he can't do that, then I think you got to start asking yourself some tough questions. Is this something that you're willing to be in, if he's not willing to make some drastic changes? Because I think if he's not, then I think there's maybe some bigger red flags than we hope to believe.
Yeah.
I also just think, like, in my experience, like in a family with addiction, like it is, it's like hell, and it is torturous, and you're trapped there. Like, especially being a child, like you have no autonomy, and you are just like in this system that is like wreaks havoc on like your emotional well-being. And you never know when it's going to stop. You never know when it's going to end, And so I think, I don't know, something that my therapist has said to me is like, you have the chance to make your own family, and nobody's perfect. So it's about finding the people whose imperfections are ones that are bearable to you. And this one might be familiar to you, but I don't think it's bearable.
Yeah, and also to that point, you got to find people who are willing to, work on it with you and try to make adjustments based off of each other's needs. And if he's not willing to make adjustments, then that's a problem,
Yeah.
And you need to be able to trust his ability to regulate his habits.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right now you don't trust his ability to do that.
Have you used ultimatum-ish, has ultimatum-ish language ever come up when you've been talking to him about this?
So, actually about 2 weeks ago, the last time it happened and I brought it up, I was talking to my best friend about it, and she asked me if she were in my shoes, what would I tell her to do? And it made me think a lot because normally I give her way better advice than I tend to listen to myself.
Welcome to the club.
Tell myself to do. Yeah. So, and then I thought, well, I wonder what Nick would tell me to do. And I thought about how you always talk about boundaries and, establishing boundaries. And so I tried to take that approach as far as I need to come up with what are my boundaries and what am I willing to waver on and communicate those boundaries to him.
Yeah.
So that's the approach that I took. But I think I'm just worried that I will continue to waver on those boundaries, I guess.
Well, got to work on, that's something you want to work on,
Yeah.
And to Amanda's point, I mean, you're only 24 and whatever love you have for your boyfriend, there's just not one I don't believe there's one person for anyone. And as you're only 24, and as much love as you might have for him, if he continues to show an unwillingness to make adjustments, and if you continue to feel like you can't trust him with regards to these habits, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And when you start having a family with him, you're a lot more stuck than you are now. And you can get divorced, but you can't you can't stop your kids from having a father. At least, I mean, you can certainly stop them from being in his life, but I don't think right now as someone who, do you want kids?
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
do.
someone who wants kids, I'm guessing when you imagine what you imagine for your kids is not having a father in their life if it got to that point, so, and you're in a position right now where you can potentially control that outcome. So don't take that for granted. And as tough as a decision you might have, it's just better to find out now and set those boundaries and see if he's willing to make those adjustments, because if not, then it's only going to get much, much worse. So when you are having a hard time enforcing those boundaries, just remind yourself you're doing it for future you're doing it for your future kids, and hopefully that will make it a little easier. Keep us posted.
I will.
We'd love an update. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. It sucks. I know. Some of these are one of the calls where it's just it's easier when I'm like, ugh, clear answer. He sucks. Whatever. This is far more nuanced and a little more complicated. And I know there's, but just think of future you and protect her and have some empathy for her.
Sounds good. I will do that.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Also, it sounds like you have amazing friends, but if you ever need someone to vent to, slide in my DMs. I understand that addiction can just be so hard to navigate, and I just have so much empathy for all the things that you're dealing with. And like Nick said, you really do just deserve the best and deserve your happiness. And so please let us know how it's going.
That is so nice. I definitely will. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to join us for the premiere of The Bachelor Recap with Ariana Maddox and Going Deeper. Brad Goreski joins us on Thursday. Rate, subscribe, review. See you tomorrow.